All right. So in today's class, it's just a revision class. We're going to touch on the following things: connection strings. We're going to touch constraints. We're going to touch backups and restore. We're going to touch logins. When you back up a database and restore it, what you have to do with the logins. We're going to look at also database refresh and any other thing that comes up. So we're going to start with backup and restore, right? Let me go ahead and bring up my paint here. I don't know how this is going to be explained again, if this is going to help you all. But when you're talking about backing up and restore a database, it's just like taking a copy of this database from one server to another, right? These servers, it might be on two different instances on the same server, or it might be from one server to another. Let us assume that in our environment today, we have a server called sales SRVR 2016, right? We have a server called sales this 2016.
Are you sharing?
Let me go ahead and share. So in our environment, we have a server called sales SRVR 2016, right? And this server actually have a database called SalesDB. There's a database here called SalesDB. The database SalesDB you have logins in the database. Let me say app user 1, and we also have app user 2, right? So this is the sales here is SalesDB. It's our database. This is a 2016 server. So now we are doing an upgrade in our environment. We have said, okay, we need to upgrade from all our servers from 2016 to 2019. So what happens is, at this point, we have already requested the system admin team to give us a new server call it sales SRVR 2019, right? And this server is just a blank server. As of now, what we have done, we have not installed any SQL. Let me just say this one have a default instance. We have a default instance here. Default instance. And here also, this is a server, and we have also installed a default instance of SQL on this server. What are we trying to accomplish? We are trying to ensure that the databases that are on this SalesDB, right, are being migrated to this server. The databases that are on the 2016 server are being migrated to the 2019 server. And that process is called, and when you are migrating databases from one server to another, that is called database migration, right? Okay, and at the same time, you are moving from a 2016 server to a 2019 server, right? This is called upgrade. And so these are two things. Now we are dealing with migrating databases, and we're also dealing with upgrade. When we talk of upgrade, there are two types of upgrades that we are looking at. There is a side-by-side upgrade, right? And there is an in-place upgrade. So remember, we are moving from 2016 to 2019, and we are doing what is called an upgrade. There are two types of upgrade, a side-by-side upgrade and an in-place upgrade. What are the differences between these, right? I'm trying to bring this down chronologically to the point where, before we even start talking about moving databases from one point to another, right? So what are the differences between these? With a side-by-side upgrade, it means you have 2 servers, right? This is the upgraded server. This is the 2019 is where we want to upgrade to. And the source server, which is a server that currently have the database, is the 2016. So side by side simply means that I have 2 servers that I'm gonna upgrade from this old one to this new one, right? And in the side by side upgrade, what happens is there is database migration, because once you do this upgrade, you bring in this new server, you need to remove these databases, the sales DB, and all the users and everything. You need to migrate them from here to here, right? So you need to do this migration. You need to migrate databases and logins when you are doing a side-by-side upgrade. Okay, the next thing that you want to look at now is, if you are not doing a side-by-side upgrade, you can do an in-place upgrade. An in-place upgrade simply means that you don't need this extra server, the 2019. All I need here is to install SQL Server, is to run a SQL Server setup. And on that setup, I'm going to tell SQL that rather than doing a new installation, upgrade this existing instance. At this point, SQL Server will do an in-place upgrade of this server, right? So look at this now. What are the differences? The difference, when you look at the differences and you put in your in-place and you put in your side by side, you see that with the in-place, right? First, there is no migration, right? There is no migration with in-place upgrade. This, remember, when we talk of migration, we link this to migrate DB and logins, right? We're talking about migration, so there is no migration, meaning this process is eliminated when you are doing a side-by-side upgrade. Whereas, if you are doing an in-place upgrade, there is migration of databases and logins, right? This is taking us a step further. I want to explain this to you all detailedly. So with the side-by-side, with the in-place upgrade, again, what happens? The time that you take to run this upgrade of this instance of SQL Server from 2016 to 2019, that entire process, you know that SQL Server will be inaccessible. Any application that was connected to that database will not be able to connect to it, right? So at this point, you have a longer downtime, right? Whereas with this one, with the side-by-side migration, all that is needed for you is the connections, the applications are still going to be connected to the 2016 server, and the only time that applications are not going to connect is when you want to do the cutoff. Cutoff means that, okay, I have already done everything here. I just want to remove the databases from 2016 and restore them on 2019. It is just within that short period that you have that downtime. So this one, with a side-by-side, there's a shorter downtime. Are we together? Emmanuel, are we together?
Please, the cutoff.
Yes.
Can you just clarify that again, please?
Okay, so when I talk of the cutoff, it means if we are doing a side-by-side migration, right? Now, the 2016 server, applications are still connected to this server, right? Applications are still connected to this server. And though the applications are connected to that server, we are here on the 2019 doing our installation. Right here, we are doing our installation. So let me say the installation on this server to install SQL approximately takes 30 minutes, right? It takes 30 minutes. So meaning the 30 minutes that we use to install SQL here, applications are still going to be connected here. Whereas if we are doing but they are in place upgrade, what will happen is that this 30 minutes that will take to upgrade this instance, applications will not be able to connect to that database. Let us clear that part. So now when I talk of the cut over, it means after we have finished installing this new server for 30 minutes, right? What we need to do now is a cut over, meaning we need to route these applications from here, from this old server to our new server. So meaning that once we are done installing the 2019 server, we come here on our new server, we do a backup of this database. So that is the cut-off time, right? Now I need to do a backup of all these databases. I need to back up all the databases. So this moment, before I back up the databases, I need to notify users that, okay, this server is going to be offline at this time, so that you back up the databases. That period is a cut-off time that I back up the databases to carry them or to go and restore them on this new server. Does this clarify that?
Yes.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, so that is it. Coming back to the in-place upgrade, right? With the in-place upgrade, so we have said there is no migration is involved. There is a longer downtime, right? I'm just mixing the advantages and disadvantages. You'll be able to figure that out. Another thing here is there is what we call, what am I going to put there? So you have longer downtime, you have know this. There is, okay, rollback plan, right? A rollback plan. So when I talk of a rollback plan, what do I mean? I mean that if you do an in-place upgrade, once you have upgraded SQL, then you cannot bring back, you cannot uninstall that upgrade to go back to 2016. If I already have an instance of SQL that have been installed, I cannot, and I upgraded to 2019, I cannot uninstall just the 2019 upgrade part that was added on that 2016. I need to uninstall the whole server. So at that point, here with the in-place upgrade, it is difficult for you to actually roll back, right? Meaning that if you already do the in-place upgrade and at one point your applications are having issues, they say, okay, we are not compatible with 2019, we cannot work again. What will happen is, since this has already been upgraded, there is no way for you to roll it back, right? So the only thing you need to do maybe is to uninstall the entire SQL and install a new 2016 SQL. And that one, it gives you a longer time. Whereas with 2019, if you do a side-by-side upgrade, and after they cut over, you repoint your applications to this new server, and it happens that you have some issues and you want to go back to where you were earlier, you can go ahead and just repoint back the applications to the old server, because the databases and everything are still there and the server is still there as it was before they cut over, right? So with this one, this one has a good rollback plan, right? Because you can easily just revert back to the old server. When we go further in this class, you see that there is another way for you to take a snapshot of this server and it will help you as a rollback plan. But for now, just understand it at the level of the databases, right? This one, the rollback plan, is not, there's no rollback plan, but this one you can repoint applications back to the old server. Okay.
But Brian,
yes,
you mentioned earlier that the reason for the upgrade is maybe we want to return those servers to Microsoft. So does it mean after we do the cutoff thing and then move to the new servers, we keep the old servers for a certain period of time, just in case we need to roll back?
Definitely, because it will not take you 20 hours to see that an application is not working. It will not take you 20 hours. So after you do the migration, you have to do a test to validate if the applications are going, right? After you do your migration, there's normally a time just to test if everything is okay. And during that testing period, if everything is not okay and you discover that is because the applications cannot work on the 2019, then you can revert back to the 2016. Again, the reason for upgrade is not just because you want to return servers. That is not just the reason. It could just be that because 2016 is out of support from Microsoft, you just want to upgrade your environment or harmonize your environment to have everything in 2019. Right? So the upgrade, I'm not talking about server decommissioning, right? When we go to server decommissioning, I'm going to talk about it. And this is just about upgrading from one instance to another. What are some of the reasons for you to do an upgrade First, it might be because the application needs to be upgraded to embrace the new features in SQL Server. It might be because you want to, like now, SQL Server 2008 is out of support. Microsoft does not support it anymore. Right? You might still be owning those servers, but you just want to upgrade to 2016. So that is generally what I'm talking about here, not a server decommissioning. Am I communicating?
Yes, sir.
Yes, perfectly.
All right. So these are the things. So I don't want to go so detailedly into this, but just understand these basic concepts. The migration, you're looking at side by side, and you're looking at in place. You have seen the basic differences between the two, right, when you're doing upgrade. So now, going back to database migration, right, somebody asked about connection strings. So in last class, I noted to you that same as you log into your computer, your username and your password is a connection string. It's what gives you that connection for you to get into your computer. For an application to get into a database, it also needs those connection strings, right? You know where your computer is. You actually go, you sit in front of your computer. That is the first connection string that you have. Okay, this is my computer. If you don't know where that computer is, can you log in? No. So an application needs to know where a database resides in order to log into that database or to have access to that database. So when we do now this migration, right, let me take it back one step. So we have seen upgrading it that requires a migration. So now, what are the various ways for you, if you are doing a side-by-side upgrade, what are the various ways to get the databases from the 2016 server to the 2019 server? You can do a backup and restore, or you can do a detach and attach, right? These are the two ways. Okay, let me break this down again. What is the difference between you do the backup / restore, and you do the detach / attach, right? These are the two. So with the backup and restore, one of the things I understand, for instance, this database is 1 terabyte. It takes me an hour to back it up. So with the backup and restore, there are 3 processes. First, right, I might have a location that I need to back up this database to. Let me just call this my SQL backup folder right here. So the backup and restore, I have right here, whatever that is. Oh my God. I have my SQL backup folder, right? This is my backup folder right here. SQL backup. So if I'm doing a backup and restore, what will happen is I'm going to use 1 hour to back up this database. I'm going to back up the sales database to this location, right? I'm going to back it up to this location. When I back it up to this location, okay, since I don't want to restore it over the network, on this my new server, there's also what is called, on my new server, I also have a SQL backup location here. I also have a SQL backup location. So what I'll do is I'm going to back up this database. It's going to take me about an hour to back up this database. And now, when I back up the database, I need to copy it from this location to here. The copy takes me about 20 minutes. And once I copy it to this location, now I need to restore it here. Sales DB. I need to restore my sales DB here, and the restore takes me 45 minutes. So that gives me a total of about 2 hours, right? If I do the backup and restore. Okay, so you see it has a longer time. Then take it the other way around. If I do a detach and attach, all I need to do is detaching a database is just a click, right? It doesn't take 20 minutes or an hour to detach a database. So the 1 hour that I used to back up this database, it will reduce just to like 5 minutes to detach the database. So I'm just going to detach the database So now the only time that I'm going to lose here is the time that it's going to take to copy the logs and the data files from this location over here to the locations of the new server. That is the only time. And I just do an attach. Attach does not take long as restore. So this one, detach and attach, have a shorter time. Any questions there?
Is the best practices that after you detach and attach, or after you do your backup, you have to relocate it to the new folder before you initiate restore or attachment?
Yes, because before you attach a database, right? When you have your log and your data files in a location, before you attach the database, you need to make sure that you copy the logs and the data files from the old server. Then in the old server, they might have been in a C drive, but on your new server, since you are trying to implement good practice, you have created a separate drive for your logs, and you have created a separate drive for your data. So rather than having them all as it was on the old server, you come on your new server, you have created this folder. So you need to copy now the log files from that old server to the log directory on the new server. You copy the data files from that old server to the data directory on the new server, and you easily attach it from there. Same with backups, right? Because every server has its own local backup location. So this one is called SQL backup, and it is on this server. This 2019 server itself has a SQL backup location, right? It has a SQL backup location, which is the same on this server. So at this point, it's important for you to copy it over here and restore it. When you are restoring locally, it takes a shorter time. You could also say that where this database is, right, is in a shared network location. We have not gotten there yet. It could be in a shared network location where both the 2016 and the 2019 server have access to. It could be in that same location. But now, if it is in this same location, what will happen is you will restore it directly from the backup directly from this location. At that point, restoring over the network, it takes a longer time than restoring locally, right? It just depends the network, the speed that you have. But it's advantageous to have them locally on that computer. You restore them or you attach them. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Emmanuel.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the next thing that we're going to look at when you're doing a backup and restore, right? What happened? So this one is advantageous because it serves like a disaster recovery solution for you, right? But if you are doing a detach and attach, this one, there's a possibility of data loss, right? There's a possibility of data loss right here because take it this way. When you back up a database, that database is still on that server, right? The database is still on that server. So if you copy it, you restore it now on this new server, and something for some reason, right, that backup does not work on this new server. What will happen is you can just say, okay, it was working on my old server, I'm going to repoint it to that old server. Or applications can still connect to it on that old server. But on the other way around, if you do a detach, by the time you detach this database from this server, right, it is not on that instance again. What happens if you detach it? Just practically, you detach it, you put in a folder, and somebody mistakenly delete the detached files. You don't have them anywhere again because it already left the 2016 instance. It is not there anymore, right? It is not there anymore. So at this point, in detach and attach, there's a possibility that, okay, even if you come to attach the files on this 2019 server and they don't work, let me say in the process in which you detach the databases, they got corrupted. The files got corrupted. And at this point, you cannot attach them here on the 2019. And when you go back to the 2016, they are not there and you cannot attach them there anywhere because the files are corrupted. At that point, what do? You can only rely on the previous backup if it was good. If it was not corrupted the time that you took it. So with the backup and restore, the advantage is that there's still that DRS solution in place, because if you restore on the new server, it does not work, you still know that there's a copy of that database on the old server, right? So I wanted to break this up so you all understand it.
A question, Brian.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to find out when you talk of delete, when we delete this folder, don't they go to the recycle bin for SQL Server on the operating system? And when we delete something in SQL, does it go to the recycle bin or it doesn't?
It does not. When you delete something in SQL, it does not go to the recycle bin. And also, even if it has to go, remember, have you ever tried to delete a file that is really big? It tells you that this file is too big for the recycle bin and it's going to be deleted permanently, right? Even in your normal Windows computer, you'll get that at times. This file is too big and it's going to be deleted permanently. But when you delete from SQL, it does not go to the recycle bin.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so that is it. We have touched that side by side in place, and we have touched backup and restore, right? We have touched backup and restore, we have touched detach and attach. So now let us assume that we have our databases already on this new server, right? There was that cutoff time. Okay, everything needs to be on this new server. So now, because these applications were pointing, the sales application was pointing on the 2016 server using the server name, right? It could also be using the port number. It could also be using the instance name. It could also be using the IP address.
No,
Please mute yourself. And it could also be using, so we have the instance name, the port number, the IP address. Yes, let's just take a login, right? There's a login. It has a login name, and we have a password. We have a login name and we have a password. So now, look at it this way. This is the application here, new, that for me to connect to a database, these are the connection strings that I have to use. This is the server name, sales SRVR 2016. You also have port number, which is this. You have instance name, you have IP address, and you have the login name. So when you migrate these databases now to this new server, right, what happens is it has a new server name. It has a new, since it's a default instance, port 1433 will still remain the same, right? But if you are migrating to a named instance, the port number will change, right? The instance name at this point, since it is a default instance, is still the same, right? So you don't need to change that. The IP address of the server might change. And then one of the things I want to ensure is that the login, which is configured in the application, you need to migrate it from the old server to the new server. That way you don't have to change your login name and password. So these are the things that constitute the connection string that the application is using to connect to that database. Okay, so at this point, what happened is we have migrated the databases from the 2016 server to the 2019 server, right? This could be either of the methods that we have decided to use, the backup and restore or the detach and attach, right? It could be any of these. So now I'm gonna, as a database administrator, you don't work by yourself, right? When you are doing a migration, you have the application team also involved because it is a process. The application team is also involved. They'll tell that, okay, once you finish migrating these databases from server A to server B, go ahead and give us these connection strings. So once you are done migrating, you send the application guys a message. Okay, the databases have been migrated. They're on the new server now. The server name is this. The port number is this. The instance name is this. The IP address is this. And the login name and password is this. The application guys now are going to go into this application. It might be a code that they need to update, right? They'll tell the application that, okay, connect to this database on this server using this same username and password. That is what we mean by a connection string. Is that okay?
Yes, I got that. Yeah.
Okay, so
Very
perfect.
clear.
That is the first thing, right? So now we have understood how to get these databases from server A to server B using either a backup and detach or a detach and attach or backup and restore. So now let us look at how do you get these logins, right? How do you get these logins? First thing that I will say is when you create a login, right? When you create a login, you have a username and a password. And I'm going to bring up my SQL to do this. You have a username and a password, right? So let me say, what user are we using here? We have app user 1. So I'm going to create a login here on my SQL instance, right? There's a login here. The database was SalesDB. I hope I have a SalesDB database here. No. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new database here. Call it SalesDB. Let's use this for a practical demo, right? I'm going to call it SalesDB or SalesDB. Sorry about that. On the owner, again, I'm going to give it a SA. I'm going to just leave these default values the way they are. And I click on OK. Right? So going back, we need to create what we call the login. And remember, in our last revision class, we taught logins and users. You create a login on the instance level, and then you map that login to a database, and it becomes a user of that database. So in this, our SalesDB, we want to create a login called app. What was the login name again? That was app user 1. We're going to create a login called app user 1. Okay, so we're gonna go to our logins, right click on logins, new logins. Then we're gonna do, again, we can do a Windows or SQL authentication. For the most part, applications will use the SQL authentication because they don't need to log in through Windows in order to get to the instance of SQL. So we're gonna use a SQL, application will use SQL authentication. I'm gonna use SQL and give it a name, app user 1. Right? The password, I'm going to give it a default password. And then I'm not going to enforce this password policy, because if I enforce this password policy, it means every 30 or 90 days, depending on what that policy is, based on my Windows environment, is going to require this SQL login to reset the password. At that point, that is a lot, because every 90 days you need to tell application guys, oh, this password has expired. Please update your connection strings to reflect the new password. So I just wanted to have a static password. It's just going to be there. I'm going to map this to the SalesDB database that we just created. If I can see it.
Down.
Yeah, and I'm going to make this a DB owner, right? Because that application actually owns that database. It manages that, right? So that is it. So now we have backed up our database and we have restored it on the new server. What we need to do now is to script out these logins to the new server. Let me take, for instance, we need just the login that we have created, right? I can go to the login, right click there. I do script the login as new query window. So look at this now. When you script out a login, right, by default, look at the password. Let's see what it says. Use master, go, create login, app user 1. Yes, this is the login you want to create with password. You see, this password is not the default password that I gave that user. SQL now encrypts this and gives you something else. So if I just go ahead and I execute this script on the new server, the 2019 server, then this is definitely going to be the password. So I need to tell the application guys that, oh, this is the password of that login app user 1, but that is not the password, right? So they need to update that connection string to reflect this password, but this is not the password that I want. So now, how do I script this login in such a way that I get the same password as it is right here? How do I script this login?
SP_help_ref login.
Perfect, right? There's a Microsoft tool out there that you can use. You all have done store procedures. So we're going to take a little step into it now to see how we can get this. But if I know this password, right? If I know this password and I just go and help and just type in that, okay, the password is going to be this, right? And I copy this, I can go ahead and create, I can still go ahead and create this login on that new instance. Just run it, it's going to create it with this password. And I'll tell the application guys, hey, this is the password. But now, because each time you create a login, there is something called SID number, right? Security identifier, something like that. Let me see. I don't want to miss that. SID. Login SID. Security identifier. Yeah, so each time you create a login, right? So this login is matched to this database, and it also has a security identifier, that number. So, but if I just copy this and create this login on the new 2019 server, that security identifier is going to change because it's going to be a new login, right? It's going to change. So you might also get into connection issues or some kind of permissions issues because that security identifier is not the same on that data, on that instance as it was on the previous instance. So what we're going to look at doing now is a technology, a means to migrate the logins from the old server to the new server without going through all this process of changing passwords, having mismatched SID numbers, and all of that stuff. Right. Please mute yourself. If you need a break, just let me know. We'll get that for you. So what I'm going to do now, there is a store procedure that Microsoft has up there on their website for you to be able to script out these your logins. This is going to be very friendly for you all. So it's going to call sp_help ref login. If I just go there, and I'm going to explain this to you, right? It's on the Microsoft support webpage. I go there, you can read it, right? This article describes how to transfer the logins and password between different instances of Microsoft SQL Server. You see, the instances may not or may be, the instances may be on the same server or on different servers, right? So this is the article that you can read what it says, but this is a store procedure. This is a store procedure that you need to use. So if I just copy this, right, I copy that, I go to my instance of SQL where I want to script out these logins to take to the new server, and I run this. So, like again, what is the store procedure, right? It's just like what you see here is a code that has been written to be able to perform a particular function each time you call it. This store procedure now is a script that has been written to go into this instance of SQL and script out all the logins, script out their passwords, script out their SID numbers, right? This is what this store procedure does. So you see how store procedures can get so complex. So I will create this store procedure. I will create it in my master database, but in your environment as a DBA, you can also create your own little database to be able to use it and run some of these your scripts, right? So this one, it really does not have any impact on this particular instance. So I'll go ahead and I'll create that store procedure. When you create a store procedure, you can go there under your system, like I created it on the master database. I can go under my system databases. I'll go under master, programmability, and I'll be able to see store procedures there, right? These are the store procedures. You see, I have other store procedures that I have created here, but this is the one that we have created, sp_help_ref logins. This is the store procedure. So now that we have the store procedure, right? Now that we have the store procedure, what do you need to do to script out all these logins on this server without having to deal with issues of password, SID, numbers, and all of that stuff? All you need to do is, I can open up a new query window, right? And I will just do to execute a store procedure. By default, you can just do the store procedure name, right? I can just do that. I can just put that name and I run it. You see, once I run this store procedure, guys, look at this store procedure. If you see the results here, it tells you generated this login, everything. I want to look just the logins that are important to me, the ones I want to migrate. Distributor admin, Brio test. Okay, this is the only login that I need from this server. Right, this is the only login that I need. So let me just copy this. This is the only login that I need here. So all I need to do, if this is the only login I need to migrate to that new server, that is all I need. I have executed this store procedure. It has given me all of this. So for me to create that login now, this is all I have to do. Create login test app with password. So this is the password, and you see here the SID number. The login scripts out the SID number, right? This is the SID number and everything. So this is it. If I run this login right now, it tells me it's already in use because this login already exists, right? But if I was doing this on the new server, the 2019 server, it's gonna migrate this login the same way as it was on the old server and restore and create that on the new server for me. Any question? I know I went a little bit fast. So let me take it back one step.
Right. Please, I want to ask, is it every time you want to get the script for the Rev login, we have to Google it?
Say that again?
I said, is it every time we have to create help Rev login that we have to get it from Google the way you just did now?
No. So as a database administrator, there are certain tools that you'll see people have already written some very nice tools out there that can help you to do your job. Let me see who is sending me a message. I'll prefer, okay, somebody's asking me a question, I'll answer that. So this is it, right? As a database administrator, there are certain things that you already see out there that they'll be able to help you perform your job. We'll get there when you all are done with the first part of this class. If you look at here under my own store procedures, you see right now I have the SP help ref login, which I've just downloaded. I have other store procedures there that I'm using, right, to be able to like see my index, optimize jobs, all of these things. So if I just download these and save it in one of my locations, and on every server that I know I need to migrate it from one, I need to migrate the logins, I can go ahead and I just run that, create that store procedure there and run it. It doesn't mean like all the time I need to keep it there. It needs to be Google. So somebody asked a question in the chat, when you create this login like this, does it, let me say this user was a DB owner, right, on the old server, does it automatically give the user the DB owner permission on the new server? The answer is, the answer is no, right? And this is why it is no. When you migrate a database, you already migrate that user of that database. So let's take, for instance, the database we are working with today is SalesDB, right? We have just migrated it from another server, and I bring it here. If I go under the security and I go to the users, what I will see is I already see the user here is appdb1. So it's already there, right? The login, the permissions that this user have on this database, the permissions are already there, right? I can see.
I have a question, sir.
Hold on, let me finish. So the user is already there, right, on that database and having the right permission. The only thing that is lacking is the login of that user. So when you run that XP underscore ref login or help ref login, it copies, it creates, you run it, you're gonna create the login and it will just match what the user you already have in the database. Go ahead and ask your question.
So did you create a user apps one, or when you create a login, it automatically create a user?
So when you create a login, I'm gonna do one again. So let me show you the other way. When you create a login, by default, it is not a user in a database. If you don't assign that database permission to that login, the login is just gonna be a login with no permissions to any database, right? So what do I mean? If I go now and I create a new login here, if I create a new login, a SQL login, I'm gonna call it app user 1, or let me call it app user 2. I'm gonna give it a password. I have a generic password that I use. I'm not gonna tell you all. Okay, I'm gonna do that. So right now, that is just a login, right? The server level permission, I just want it to be public. I don't want it to have anything, right? If I put a sysadmin, so by default, this login is gonna have access to all those databases. So I just want it to be public. So this is a login, right? If I go to this login and I look here, the mapping, nothing. Under the user mapping, right? Look at what is happening. It is not mapped to any database. Look at this login is not mapped to any database. So if the login, you can use it to log into the instance of SQL, but you are not a user of any database. For me to make this login a user of any database, I need to go there and I go on the mappings and I map this login to, let me say, the test 12 database. And I give it whatever database roles that I want to give that login. So there are two ways. In the process of creating the login, you can just map it to the database, or you can finish creating the login, then you come back and map it to the database. The one I used earlier was created the login, and I just mapped it to a database where it became a user.
Okay, so when you map a login, you create a user.
Yes.
Okay.
So at the instance level, you are creating a login. But when you map it now to a database, it is creating a user in that database. Is that understood?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So coming back to where we were. So now, when you do this, you migrate all your logins to. When you migrate all your logins now to the new server, that is all. You just tell the application guys. The only change you need to do in that connection string, since the login name and the password is going to stay the same because you have used the best practice to migrate those logins, you just tell them, hey, the new server name is this, the port number is this, the instance name is this, this is this. At this point now, the application guys are going to change their connection strings. Rather than mapping to this instance, they're going to change them now and map it to this new instance. And they test the applications to make sure that everything is okay, right? So that is it. Yes.
What about if you're backing up on the same server but different instances on the same?
So it is still the same. It is still the same concept. It is still the same concept. Let me say I have one server right here. This is a server. The server name is sales. This was sales. I'm gonna call this. This server name was sales DB or sales SRVR 3 or 2008, right? And in this server, I have two instances. I have instance 1 and I have instance 2. So my instance 1 here is called let me call it HR app, right? That's HR app. Let me just call it, that's the instance name, a default instance, right? I'm just calling it, let me call the default instance SQL 12, and I have another, a name instance SQL 13. So it's the same thing. So SQL 12 have databases called HRDB, right? And that HRDB, the SQL 12 itself have logins and users. So now I want to do a migration from the database HRDB to, from the database is HRDB from SQL 12, I want to migrate it to SQL 13, right? What I need to do is the same process. At this point, I just need to back up this database and restore it here, or I do a detach and attach. Remember, SQL 12 has logins and users. I still need to script out these logins and users from SQL 12 and run that and create the same logins and users on SQL 13, even though they're on the same Windows server. But at this point, what is going to be a change? If an application was connected, let me say this is an application. If an application was connected to SQL 12, right? The connection string that the application was using was server name. And the server name was SQL Server 2008. The instance name was SQL Server SQL 12. And the login was blah, blah, blah. The port number, like that. So when I do this migration, this application now needs to connect back but to this SQL 13. The only thing that will change here is going to be the instance name. But the server name, which was SQL, Sales Server 2008, is not going to change because the instance is on the same server. So the thing that's going to change on the connection string of that application is just the instance name, which is SQL 2013, and might be the port number. because the server is going to have the same IP address, right? A server might have multiple IP addresses, but will not get there now. Let's just assume that this server has just one IP address. So the only connection string that you need to change, that the application guys will change, is going to be the instance name, because that's the only thing that has changed. Then you still need to script out your logins and you create them on the new instance. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
But the backup location does not change. Right?
It might change. It depends on you, because when you remember, when you have two instances, the project that we gave you guys in the midterm, right? We said create. You have two instances, and they should have different log and backup locations. So this one might have its own backup location, and the second instance might have its own backup location, even though they are on the same server, but they can be in different drives. You can have, this one might have, this server generally might have 6 drives, right? It might have 6 drives. Might have 6 drives right here. Or 6 drives. And each of these, 3 is for instance SQL 12, and 3 is for SQL 13, right? So even if you back up or detach the database from SQL 12, you still need to copy the log files and data files to the log and data location of SQL 13, and the backups to the backup location of SQL 13. It doesn't mean that because the two instances are on the same server, they must have the same log and data directories, they must have the same backup directories. That is not what it means. So this is a general concept, right? It is good for you to understand how this works, because to me, like I said, in SQL, the difficult part is to understand what you are doing, why you have to do it, the advantages and the disadvantages of doing this, right? And doing it is very easy. If we need to detach a database now and attach it, that is a very easy process. I know we have already done that in class, but we can see, you can do that. Just right click on the database. As long as you know where the data and log files are located, you can just right click and you go to your task and you detach your database. You detach your database, you drop out existing connections and you detach the database, right? That is it. So the process of doing it itself is very easy. It's the easiest part. But what I always want you all to understand and pay attention to and be able to talk this out, like, okay, we are from Kiawitech, we have done this, this is the SQL language, is to get this picture, this understanding of it.
Brian.
Yes.
I have an objection with detached and attached.
Okay.
Even though is most easy way to restore your database to another instance or to do a different server. Again, it's not the best practices. The best practices to me is the backup plan. Do one backup plan on one database, or you use the concept of maintenance plan, backup plan. The reason why I say that, last time I tried to detach my data, I couldn't attach it anymore. I've been having difficulties trying to attach it back to the instance, and I haven't been able to do that. I've utilized different options and different videos that I watched so far. I couldn't figure out how to do it. So to me, I don't think detach and attach is the best practices, especially in the working environment, to avoid any kind of uncertainty.
Okay, so that is, I don't know if you were in the class from the beginning, we already cited some of those points. I gave you some of the advantages and disadvantages of doing both, right? Like that's exactly one of the things I said about detach and attach. What if you detach a database and you take it to another instance and it does not attach? You bring it back to the old instance, it does not attach. Might be because in the process of detaching, the database got corrupted, the files got corrupted, right? That is something that is not good. But at the same time, it's up to you. I would not recommend a detach and attach in a very critical environment, right? Request the appropriate amount of downtime, do the backup and restore, and know for a fact that you have a rollback plan 100%. in place as compared to the detach and attach. At the same time, in my environment, if this database is something I already have a backup somewhere. I already had a backup that was taken yesterday. No changes have been made on this database, right? I don't want to go through the process of backing up and restore. I just know that, okay, I can detach and attach it. However, I still have a backup. If something breaks, I'll do it. So it's just a matter of priority. What do you really want to accomplish at this time? But the best thing is to do the backup and restore, because that instills the fact that your DR solution is still in place. Right?
Right.
Yes. So we already talked about that. So I just want to make sure I capture all the issues you have. Again, this is a revision class. We want to make sure that we address all of the really things that you have mentioned. Who asked a question on the connection string?
As of 4.
So for does this explain it, or you need some more clarification on
No,
that?
this is very clear now. I now see now where the connections are. I kept wondering what we were referring to as a application connection string. So I now see it. So yeah.
Okay, that is beautiful.
Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you very much.
I have a question on that. What if you were faced with a question at the interview section on what is connection string, and you give a very broad explanation on this topic, and we might not have enough time to go over all the things you mentioned here? What are the best options on how to answer the question?
So what I have said here, all this diagram and this drawing here is not just for connection strings, right? I started it from how do you get to the concept of even the connection strings, why you need to think about connection strings and stuff like that. That's why I had to bring in the aspect of two servers migrating from one to another and repointing applications from one to another. But the simple question is, it is good for you to understand this concept. In an interview, what we don't want our students to do is to be giving book answers. That is why this is a hands-on experience class, and we are giving you all of this. I don't expect you to go in an interview and they ask you what is a connection string. You said the connection string is the server name, the instance name, the IP address, the login, and the password. Nope. Right? All of those things can constitute a connection string. But you as a database administrator, remember you are leaving this class with some experience. We have done a lot of these things hands-on, right? What is a connection string? In an interview, always try to link that to your practical, situation that you have been part of. So these are things. A connection string is actually a link between an application and a database. And this link can be created using the IP address, the server name, the instance name, the port number, a username, and a login. Most of the time in my environment, when I have to do a migration, after the migration, I need to repoint applications to the new server and the new database. At this point, I need to communicate the new connection strings, which might be the server name, the login name, the IP address, the port number. I need to communicate this to my developers for them to update the application code to point to this new server, right? That is, when you give an answer like that, they know that, okay, this is something that you have really done. And we have done that in class. We'll have one of our projects in this class where you need to create a little Excel application and connect it to a database, right? Migrate a database from one server to another, then repoint that Excel application to that new server. So these are some of the things that you need to keep at the back of your mind. Don't dwell on yes or no answers during an interview. It's a question like this, you give me a question about connection strings in an interview, I'm going to answer connection strings, answer migration, answer side by side. If you give me that, that's an open check for me. I'm going to sign it for you, right? Because I know what it is. And that's the same thing that you all should follow. Okay. So that is it for it. I don't think we need to be doing backups in this class again. You all already understand how to do backups unless somebody is having an issue. Who asked a question about backup and restore? Huh?
I think the question was about refresh. And
okay.
Was asking if detach attach is the same thing as refresh.
Okay, I'm going to touch on that again.
I'm the one who asked the question on backup. because I actually created a login and was trying to back up a database from one of my instance, that's from the prod instance, and restoring it back on the default instance. And I was having challenges with that. So.
Okay, and what issues were you having? This is a revision class. We can use this to correct those issues. And again, I've not seen you all post questions in the group, and it makes us concerned if you are really practicing this or not. I've not seen any screenshot in our group chat to be able to help.
I sent a screenshot, sir.
You did?
Yes, yesterday.
Okay, maybe I missed that. So, but what is the issue? Do you want to show us the issue you're having so we can resolve this for you? This is a revision class. I don't just need to do the topic.
Yeah, I can show you.
Brian, can I say something?
Yes.
She said she backed up her databases from her prod. She wanted to refresh the database. That's from prod to DR.
Uh-huh.
And our DR was 2016 and the prod was 2019.
Yeah.
I don't know if
No, she said it's
No,
default.
I said from default.
From default.
The default.
I think she's talking about the orphan user. So she actually used the login, and then now she backed up the database, and then she was trying to restore it and get the orphan user, and then she's supposed to change the login from.
Okay.
So I can show my screen, sir.
Hold on, let me finish with who was asking the question of backup and restore. What's the name?
It's Solange.
Okay, Solange. So let me finish. Let me get Solange issue clear. So is your question about the difference between backup and restore, or it has to do with orphan users?
No, it's backup and restore, because when I was restoring, I wasn't finding the file. So I was wondering if it was the location was changed, or because he kept telling me that there is no.
Okay,
like,
that is fine.
I don't
Go ahead
have.
and share your screen. Go ahead and share your screen. Let us take care of that for you.
Okay.
Yeah, stop share your screen. Now this is good. You all attending this revision class is really impressive. You know, unlike when you all are in class. Okay, so just explain what you did. So you backed. What database did you back up?
Cluster 1.
So you backed up.
Cluster
So
1.
back it up again. Just do it again. And you're taking a full backup. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is where I actually had a challenge, because by default, I have the backup folder here.
Okay. All right. So this is it, right? The first thing that you understand here, when you are installing SQL, right, you need to tell SQL that this is my backup location. I'm going to take you one step back. Cancel out of this. You see here, it tells you that it's supposed to back up. SQL knows that your backup location is EMS SQL, right? But can't X out of that. X out of this as well. Right click on your instance. Let us see. Let us just confirm that is true. Right click on your instance and go to properties. So check where your backup location is. You can click on DB database settings. So where is your backup location?
EMS SQL.
So each time you want to do a backup, SQL is going to look at that location. That okay, I have been configured to back up into this location, and that is where I want to back up. But that does not stop you. You can still browse and change that location, right? So now I want you to change this backup. Or let us do it the other way around. just go ahead and cancel this and do your backup. You have to change this location later on. And the best practice, if you open up a window and you don't do any change there, never you click on OK, right? You might have made a mistake and probably changed something. I just click on OK, not knowing. If you know that this window that I open, I do not want to do any change in it, just click on cancel or X out. Don't click on OK. So go ahead and do the backup again. So now it is telling you there's not a backup in that location, but you can change that backup path by clicking, click there, and then browse to where you want a backup to go to. So there is SQL backup. Okay, then you give now the backup name.
Is that what I'm saying?
Give the name of the backup. What is the name? Use a good naming convention and give a name to that backup file. What database are you backing up?
Cluster 1.
Okay. So cluster 1 underscore. No, not that. You can do underscore full backup. You can do underscore. You put 032520. 032520. And if you want, you can put a date, a time, but that's okay. Just put .bak. You click on OK. You click on OK. So now, click on OK. That was just using the default settings. That is it, right? So, okay. So now, I want you to back up, do that same backup. Go to that same database, right-click and do a backup. Right-click on the database. That is a different database. I want you to right-click on that same database. Do a backup, remove this one. Art. So now, right? So hold on, no. I just want you to just cancel out of this. Click on cancel. So what I want you to do is, okay, you just want to back up to that default location. All you need to do here is on that, click in front of that backslash and type in the name of the backup. Yes. So just put in a cluster 1. You have to type in the name of the backup, cluster 1. Use the proper naming convention. All right, so go and verify those locations. I just want you to understand these things, right? There are some little things that you just need to play with. Go now and verify in both locations if you have the backups there. So the first one, go to your, just open up, click on this PC. So was that in your E drive? Open up your E drive. So the other one was SQL backups, right? Wow, you have some jobs that are running. So it's okay. Is that where the backup, is that where you backed it up?
Yeah.
I see another SQL backup folder here, the third one. Go to the third one. I don't know why I have so many. I mean the fourth one, yeah.
It's not this one that she used.
Okay, go back. So you see the problem is not that the problem is you and the way you have programmed your folders in your computer. So go ahead and click on date modify there to arrange that by date. Click up there, yeah. So that is a backup that's what you just did now, right? That is the location where you have backed it up. So you yourself, we have gone past this level. You should be able to organize your work. Know that this is where all your backups are going to, right? Change the backup locations. You don't need to have multiple backup locations unless you have multiple instances. And even if you have multiple instances, you should name the backup location per instance. You can put default backup location, prod backup this, test backup this. So that way it's organized, and you yourself, you will not be confused where a backup went to. That is how you learn. Try to organize back everything that we have done.
I have a question.
Well, one moment. Let me get done with her. So, was your problem figuring out where the backups were?
Yes,
Solange.
it was actually restoring it back.
Okay, fine. So go ahead, and I want to see the other backup that you did. Click on the MS SQL folder. Open that up. So you see that this is the other backup that you did. So depending on one location that you map your backups to, you're gonna get that result, right? So it's just up to you to know where the backups are going to. So go now to the next step, which is restoring the database. Let us see. Yes, go ahead and ask your question, Ada, why she's going there.
Okay, so my question is pretty basic. I know I can have an idea what they both meant for a DBA, but I still want to get more like depth knowledge of why these two options are needed in a backup environment. I mean, SQL Server environment backup, and this goes to default backup plan. I mean, backup and regular job creating job backup plan. So which one is more efficient and which one is more recommendable?
Which are the two options? Give me the two options again.
Default backup plan, which you select full backup, which is one of the best practices. And then we have a maintenance plan, backup plan. Okay. The one that you can back up multiple, you can do T-log and differential backup and full backup.
Okay, we'll talk on that. Let me see what this message is. The log for database term is not available, right? Click on OK. Click on OK. It already tells you, right? Click on cancel out of here. So this your instance, the default instance. It is telling you that, close that. Click on close. Right, click on that default instance. It is supposed to tell you that the log for that 10 GB is not available. So right click there, go to the properties and see where you have the log files. So what does it tell you? Cannot show requested this, failed to retrieve data from this, and exception is the log for database this is not available, right? This is a very common question, a very common issue that you might have. Click on OK. So maybe somebody deleted the log files or something. But what is a good thing about log 10 GB? What is a good thing about 10 GB? Each time you restart SQL, it creates a new 10 GB, right? Okay, so disconnect from that instance, Solange. When you see questions like this, it's an opportunity for you to study. It's an opportunity for you to study. Take that question, type it in Google, and try to see what it says. Snap a screenshot or snap a screenshot. I don't think I saw a screenshot like this in class or in the group chat. Solange, you did not.
It wasn't doing this when I was.
Okay. So now go to your configuration manager and see if you can restart that instance. So yeah, right click and restart it. Restart. Okay. So each time you restart SQL, you get a new 10 GB, right?
Close out of this.
Don't close out of it. I just want you to start your why are your agents off? Just go ahead and start the agent for the default instance. I mean start the agent. All right. So go back, try to connect to the default instance again. Let me see. Right click on it and go to properties. Right click on the instance and go to properties. You see, so term SQL created a new term DB and everything is good, right? This is an issue that you can also face. Might be, I don't know what happened with the term, with the log term. You might have deleted it by error or something might have happened. You might have tried to relocate it and it failed or something like that. So try to restore that database as you started already. Click restore database. Browse art. You can do it directly. You have it there already. It's the same backup, right? You already have it there. But if you want to browse to, you just need to click on it. You need to click on it, Solange. Yeah. Click on OK. Click on OK. So click on OK now. Okay, that is correct. Click on the error message. Let's see. Click on that link on the bottom left. It says system, this the operating system, return the error, this the process cannot access the file. It is being used, right? This is a perfect example of what we gave in the assignment. It is telling you that that file is being used. That log and the data files are being used because you still have both instances pointing the log and data files in the same directory. So now you are trying to restore this database on your default instance, but your prod instance already have a database called this with those names of those same files. It's just the same like saying that, okay, I have a folder for my data files, and I have one. I need to explain this. Stop. Let me share and explain this a little bit. Right, you're gonna come back. Yeah. Because I wanted you all to understand this. The reason why we said each instance should have a different location for the logs and data files. So this is your scenario right now, Solange, right? This is where you are. So you have, does anybody need this picture again, or I can get rid of it? Can I clear this thing off?
Yes, you can.
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
I'm not gonna see. So this is a Solange situation right now. You have one server, right? Yes, this server is called that's your server person. Is Solange. I don't want to put your name there, right? And then on this server, you have two instances of SQL. And these two instances of SQL, this particular server, it has 3 drives, right? This is drive 1, drive 2, drive 3. This is your default instance. You have, no, let me just start with your prod. This is your prod instance, and this is your default. This is your default instance. Okay, so this one here, this is your data file. This one is your log file. This one is your, let me just say temp DB, right? So what happens is this instance, the prod instance, have a database called cluster 1. And this cluster 1 has a log file here. Cluster 1 also has, get this again, also has, that's a data file, a log file, and cluster 1 again also has what we call, oh crap, a temp DB, right? And here, what is the name of this log file? Let's just say it is called, the logical name is cluster cluster one, let me just say .ngf, right? .ngf, the same thing, cluster one, .mdf, this is mdf. That's mdf, this is the log file in this location. So you have backed up this database, you have backed up the cluster one database, and you're trying to restore it on this instance. You're trying to restore it on this instance. So now, since this instance is mapped, the log and default, the log and data drives are mapped the same to the same location. From here, log is going there. From here, data is going there, and temp also is going here. What do you think? Because this database is the same database name, and the file names are still the same. SQL will tell you that I cannot restore this database here because these files are already here, right? You cannot have the same files with the same names in this same location. That is why we said when we gave you this project, go ahead and each instance should have its own folder for log files. So what we expected for you is that, okay, for prod instance, you're gonna go here, you create a folder here called MS SQL, MS SQL prod, right? And in this MS SQL prod, you have your data, you have your log, you have your temp, you have your backup, right? This is still on the same computer. And here you create another folder called, on this computer, you can create another folder called SQL default. And in this folder, what do? You do the same thing. You have your logs, you have your data, logs, temp, and backups, right? This is the same thing that you're supposed to do. So at this point, if I want to restore a database that is here, I don't need to, I will not bother because this guy is pointing to this folder and this guy is pointing to this folder. At no point am I going to get that issue that, okay, this file is already in use, this is already in use, this is already in use. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Brian, if you're going to follow the best practices, you create a data log and then you have them in different drives. So how many drives are we going to get if you have like 5 instances?
You get the same number of drives that you require for each instance. They should have their own drives, right? Mostly, the moment or a situation where you have multiple drives is when you are doing like a traditional failover cluster, right? At that point, you have a shared storage. You might have multiple drives in a shared location that are already there. So all you are doing, you are just mapping the instances to the drive, right? But if you have just one computer like that, we want to put multiple instances, it is good to have these multiple drives and have everything split up like that. First, to help improve performance. Okay, so that is, I just wanted to explain this so you understand the reason why you need to have every instance have its own location. All right, so share your screen back. Let us see how we can resolve your issue.
Brian, a question just on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes when we do the backup and we restore, we have to sometimes change the name. If we do this setup that you are demonstrating right now, would that avoid us having to change the name of the restoration?
Exactly, and that's exactly what I was about to do. So the only way that you need to restore this database on this your default instance is to change the name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
That's the only way. That's the only way. So what I want you to do now, Solange, is to restore this database with a different name. So just put a cluster 1.1, right? Put the cluster 1.1. Okay, go to the files. Click on files to the top left. Okay, so now maximize that, and you change the, so now on the, does it give you this thing, original name, restore ours? So you see on the restore us, right? You see that's already changed. It is telling you that it's now, the original name is cluster 1. right? You see it there. Then for the restore as now, you see the name. It is telling you it's cluster 1.1. Do you see it there? Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
All right. So go ahead and click on OK. Click on OK. Boom. Bingo.
So I have it. I
So
have an
let's verify that the database is there. Click on open up the databases. You see it there. So
Yeah,
let me.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I
Let me
still
finish
have
with
an
Solange.
issue.
Okay, let me take one. Let me finish with Solange first.
Okay.
Solange, do you have a question?
I created a security.
No, I mean for this database, for the backup and restore. Do you have a questions for this one?
No, I'm fine with this. Thank you.
And you're a little bit away from your mic. So yeah, so I'll come back
I'm
to
okay
you.
with this.
Okay, you are okay with this. I'll come back to you on the logins and stuff like that, right? Just one moment. Okay, who has a question about what we have just done?
I am.
Yeah, I did everything, but I still have an issue.
And what is the issue that you're having?
But the message is not the same. They say system data client, the SP configuration value contain databases authentic must be set to 1 in order to restore a content database.
Okay, because that question simply tells you are trying to restore a contained database, but that instance has not been set to accept contained databases. So share your screen. We're gonna take Mommy Sol, I'm gonna come to you. I know you had a question.
Okay. That's the issue.
Okay, so that is going now to a contained database. That's something I was gonna talk about. Let me just talk about that. So go ahead and share your screen.
Yes, sir.
Eddie, I thought Nelly posted it on the WhatsApp group that you should go and change the content.
Yeah, so click on OK here. That is fine, we can do it here. So when you talk of a contained database, you can cancel out of this.
Okay.
When you talk of a contained database, right, like we have already explained what this contained database is. But to set this up, to have a database, a contained database, that instance itself needs to be configured to accept contained databases. I will take you to your prod, go to your prod instance, right? Click on your prod instance and go to the properties. Okay, so now, right, go to the advanced. You see enable contain, the first option there under containment. What does it say? Enable contained databases is set to true.
Oh, okay.
So this is the only way where you can have a contained database on this instance. That is the only way, right? So close out of it. Go now to your default instance and check that same property. And if you had copied that error message and put it in Google, you would have gotten that answer to that question. And somebody even posted that in class, right? But you still did not follow it. So click on OK now, go and try to restore your database. So you have now indicated to this, your default instance, that, okay, I have contained databases, you can go ahead and accept them on this instance. That is exactly what you have done.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So that is it. Okay, Momsi Sola, I had a question. Or Mommy Sola, sorry. Mommy Sola.
Yeah, I've been able to back up, but I'm unable to restore a particular database.
So what message, what error message are you getting?
Yeah, it's saying unable to. 1 minute.
Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
Chloe, are you having a good time? Clovis. Okay, when I say close out of that, one moment, Momsi Sola, close X out of that. Okay, so go all the way up. I want you to just go up, click on that databases. When it's so broad like that, it gets me really, click on the negative sign to in front of the databases. Go back. I don't want to see all the databases. Yeah, click there. Okay, so you can start working now. Go ahead and do what you're doing.
Okay.
This is your DR.
Sorry?
This is your DR, right? You want to restore your DR.
No, from prod to instance.
Okay, let her go
Or
ahead.
default, yeah, to your default. So it's saying no backup selected to be restored.
Okay, go ahead.
So
you have selected it, you need to click on OK. Click on Files, let me see. All right, so go ahead and back up that database again. I don't know what you did. X out of this, back up the database again.
I think she's trying to restore from 2019 to 2016.
Momsi, so let's just be sure, right? What instance is that database on? Go open up a new query window, click on the prod instance and open up a new query window. Click there, open up a new query window. To check the instance, use the select add version. Select. Again, it is not case sensitive, right? Space, art, the art sign and the art sign. Two of them. No, just in no space, two of them.
Okay.
Art version VER. You already have it there. You can just click on it, run that. So what version of SQL is this?
2019.
Okay, and then go to the other instance. Click there, open up a new query window. You can just copy that script.
That one is 2016.
Open up a new query window, paste it there, run it.
2019.
No, so you need to open a new query window using that instance.
So, yeah, paste it there. Look at what you're executing. You have highlighted something. Click in there and on highlight. Yeah, execute it there. Click on execute.
Okay.
So, what do you understand, Mommy Sola?
Okay. Now I understand I can't go from 2019 to lower than the version.
Okay, and that is called backward. SQL is backward incompatibility, right?
Yeah,
because exactly. So that is your issue. Okay, I hope you have understood how to verify, because it's a simple thing. They can ask you in an interview, how do you check what version of SQL that you are running on, right? You cannot go to an interview when you are talking about upgrading and stuff like that, of which you don't know what version of SQL you are running on. So this is also something very important for you to learn.
So can I do from 2019 to 2019?
Definitely, you can.
Yeah.
The only thing is backward incompatibility is not accepted. Okay.
Right.
Any other question?
Yeah, I have a question. How do you know the IP, the port number for the instance?
Can someone help him with that? Who is asking that question?
Eddie.
Eddie.
Who can help Eddie with that? Mommy Sola, go ahead and show Eddie the port number of your instance. Show the port number of your default instance.
No, name instance, sir.
Yeah, it doesn't, any of them. Mommy Sola, show us where you get the port number.
I went to configuration stuff.
Go to configuration manager.
Yeah, I went there, but I didn't see it.
Go to configuration manager, Momsi Sola.
Manager.
Configuration manager is not on that instance. Configuration manager, go to search, type in
your
configuration manager on the bottom.
I got confused.
When you are sharing your screen, you get confused, huh? That's fine. Open up the 2019. It's already out there. Open it up.
Okay.
Did it open? Type in configuration manager, open up that 2019. Just go up and click on this. Yeah, click there.
So should I click on yes?
Yeah, you have to click on yes.
Yeah.
Give it permission. So to see the port number of your DRO instance, Momisola, what do you need to do? Somebody walk her through.
Go to SQL Server Services.
Network configuration.
Network configuration. That's what the matter there.
No, the other one.
Go to the last. Yeah.
Double click or you right
click. Click on anyone.
Do the prod.
IP, TCP.
IP. Yeah. Click on IP.
IP address.
Okay.
Go down to the end.
You have to scroll all the way down, all the way down. So what is the port number?
1983.
AD, do you get the port number now?
Yes.
Okay, and coming back, what kind of port is that, Momisola?
Momisola, read it from the name. It is there.
TCP dynamic port.
Okay, and how many types of, what are the various types of port numbers that you can have? If it is not a dynamic, what is it gonna be? So perfect. So there are two types, either a dynamic or a static port, right? Dynamic means that each time you restart this instance of SQL, that port is gonna change. It's gonna have a different port number. And that one is not good. What if a connection string in an application was using this port number to connect? It means when you restart SQL, the port number is gonna change. That way the application will not be able to connect. That is why it's always good to have a static port number. And if you want to make this static, all you need to do is you copy that number, and on below that where you have the TCP port, you put it there. It's gonna be static. So I want you to change this from dynamic to static, Momisola. So you can copy that out, or you can, it's 49823. Copy that out and delete it. No, don't click on OK. Don't click on OK. You see now, below that, you see TCP port. Below that, click and type in that in there. Okay, so delete that one up there. Delete that dynamic port. So now, when you click on OK, this instance of SQL now is going to have this static port. Regardless of if you restart it or whatsoever, that port is not going to change. So if an application was connected to this instance using this port, all you need to do is you click on OK, you tell the application guys, this is the port that you're going to connect to.
So Brian, is that the IP address for that instance as well?
Yes, there's the IP address there.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, click on OK. And remember, when you change it, you have to restart SQL services for this to take effect. So click on OK. And these are some of the things that they can ask you. These are practical things that you should have done, right? How do you change a port number from default to static? Or from dynamic to static? How do you change it? When you change it, do you need to restart SQL services or not? We have done this in class. Right? Do some reading.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Brian.
Yes.
Yes. No, sorry.
I did not get that.
Okay. Since you changed it from static, from dynamic to static, is it not going to pose any problem when SQL Server begins to run again?
Is it not going to cause any problem? The only problem it's caused is that the port number has changed. And if this is normally done when you are doing installation. After installation, like I said, some of the post-installation changes that you need to do in SQL, there are some of these things. Before an application even connect, if an application is supposed to use a port number, you should have already, after installing SQL, you should have already changed that port number to dynamic or to static.
Okay.
Brian, question.
I have a question, sir.
Okay.
So you said when you change the port to dynamic to static, and then I have to restart the server.
Yeah, you need to restart the instance.
Okay, so I have to stop and then start it again.
You don't have to. When you restart, when you change that from dynamic to static and you click on OK, it tells you, that message that you get tells you that for this instance to take effect, you need to restart SQL Server, that you need to restart that SQL Server instance, right? So you just need to go now on the instance, then you right click and you do restart. That way the change will take effect.
Brian.
Okay, thank you.
What is disadvantages of both?
I've just
and
given one
advantages as well.
I've just given one disadvantage at that. So an application is supposed to connect to this instance of SQL using this port number, right? And you know that with a dynamic port number, each time you restart SQL, the port is going to change. An application is not set up that way. So an application knows just that port number. If you restart SQL services now and the port number changes, what will happen with the application? Will it be able to connect?
Nope.
You will not be able to connect. So that is a disadvantage, right? That is the only thing I can tell you. If you want to tell me what is an advantage of a dynamic port, an advantage, you can look at it this way. Okay, if hackers will not be able to directly get into that system because every time that port changes, right? Each time you restart SQL, that port changes. If a hacker has been trying to get into that system and they have captured this port today, then maybe you restart SQL services by the end of the day. Tomorrow that hacker comes, they'll still need to go through another process to get the new port, right? You just need to compare them.
I have a question. Eddie, give me 1 minute, please. Momisola, please go to double click on the IP, the TCP, the IP address. On the IP, go to the IP address. Okay, Brian, over here we have like 3 or 4 IP addresses. Which one out of this is the ideal IP address for this instance?
Is the one, go to the one on the very bottom, Momisola, where you have the
one that has
the IPv.
IP
Yeah, this one is 192.168.0.13. Go up again. Is it IPv?
Keep going up.
Keep going up. Go up.
I think it's the bottom one.
Go up.
Going up.
Okay, IP4. So this is something I really need to look into. I don't know which one is the exact one. I need to know the difference between the IP4, IP5, all of those ones, right? But why did you close it? For me, I will do some research on this and I will get back to you all. But I personally feel like it's the IPv4, which is the right one. But I need to confirm that.
So do I need to close and restart this?
You need
for me to get to the dynamic
Exactly, Momisola. When you click to change a dynamic port, SQL told you for this change to take effect, you need to restart SQL service, right? So click on OK. Then you need to restart the SQL services now.
Just go to SQL Server Services there. Yeah.
That was for your prod. So right click on prod and click restart. Right click on SQL Server prod and click restart. The second one. That is the agent. That is not the instance. The second one. Second. That is just
the second one under DR. Yeah. Right click. Cancel out. Right click. Yes, restart.
Select restart option.
It failed on my computer, sir.
What failed?
When I tried to restart.
What do you have up and running? Maybe you need to close out of SQL, close everything and restart the instance. So let me just do this. We're gonna take, it's 2 hours of talking. We're gonna take a break. Let me pause the video. So when we come back for break, we're gonna look at somebody asked the questions, why do you the backup using the maintenance plan and the regular backup? Who else? What else do we need to look at when we come back? We have looked at the contained database that somebody talked about, and that is okay. We have looked at connection strings. I think we still have constraints to look at, right?
Yeah, the constraints.
And
Table
refresh.
and column. Margaret asked a question.
Okay, so we have, okay, when we come back, we're gonna go with database refresh. We're gonna go to, which one is gonna take us less time? I'm gonna answer this backup with a maintenance plan. And then we're gonna look at, I started with that, we'll start with database refresh since we have talked about backups a lot. And then we're gonna talk about the last one, which is constraint, right? So we have 3 things to come back and talk about. Let us take a 15 minutes. It's been an intensive 2 hours. Let me pause the recording. Welcome back, everyone. So we're gonna be looking at database refresh, right? We're gonna be looking at database refresh. I'm gonna open this up again. And this was one of the students in the last class had an interview, and that was one of the first questions that they asked her. So what is the database refresh? Have you done a database refresh or not? So so somebody is asking if moving 10 DB, we are gonna do that in this class. Yeah, in subsequent classes we'll do that, right? But you need to use a script, and I can show you how to do that if we have time by the end of today. I'll show you how to do that. That's something that we will definitely do that as well. So let me go to open up a new list. So let's take, for instance, this. We have already understood how an environment looks like, right? You might have a prod environment. You might have a prod environment. You might have a dev environment. You might have a test environment, right? Let me just do this practical. So we have prod here. We have dev here. Let me just use dev.
Are you sharing?
I should share. So we have 3 environments. We have prod, we have dev, and let me just say we have a test environment here for the new DBAs. They are playing with it, right? So on this our prod environment, remember this is an environment which could be this is our entire company right here. So let me just make this distinction. This is our entire company, right? This is Kiawitech company, and we have these 3 environments. On this prod environment, we have 5 production servers, right? Well, let me just say you have 20 production servers. You have 20 production servers. And here we have 5 dev servers. 5 dev servers. We have here 3 test servers for our DBAs. 3 test servers, right? So, meaning on each of these, excuse me, this is our prod with 20 servers. So we have 20 servers in here. We have 20 of these servers in this environment. And tomorrow when we start talking about virtualization, you'll see how we can virtualize or have, how we can use virtualization to actually have multiple of these servers rather than using physical boxes, right? Here we have 5 servers. 3, 4. We have 5 servers here. Okay, so this is our dev environment. And on this dev environment, you have this particular server. This one is called, I'm just gonna call it dev1. This is our dev1 server, right? And this dev1 server, the name is dev1. It has an instance called SQL dev1, right? There's an instance of SQL here called SQL dev1. Okay, this is our production server. This is our main production server. It has a database called sales, right? It has a sales database on this production server, right? And the production server name is, let me just put prod1, and the instance is a default instance. Are we clear with this distinction? Any questions as far as this is concerned?
Well, no question, sir.
I'm not clear on it yet.
Okay, do you understand that if you're in an environment, you might have a prod environment that is just your production servers, meaning every database on these servers are for production. You have a dev environment. This is where your developers connect to test their scripts to do their dev work. And you have a test server here. Do you understand this?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Okay, so that's just all I wanted to understand. So on this, our dev server, we have a database called a sales database. And our developers, they want you to restore, they said, okay, this sales database, they use it, it works all the time, right? We have another that same database here, sales. We have that same database here, sales. This one was last restored on this database 2 months ago. 2 months, well, let me just say two weeks ago, right? This database sales is a copy of this one from production server that was restored here 2 weeks ago. So now the developers are trying to update this sales so that people from out of Europe can actually access the application that is connected here. And in doing so, they need to run some store procedures on this sales database. Developers don't want to do that directly on the prod server. So what they need to do is do it on the sales server. On the dev server, and see that it works, that their script actually works before they deploy that to the prod environment. So now, since they want to have a fresh copy, remember this backup here, or this database here was restored with a copy of the prod database from this one 2 weeks ago, meaning a lot of transactions have also come into this prod DB now. You have a lot of transactions in this database now that are not in this database in the dev environment. So what will happen is developers will send a ticket. Can you please refresh this database with a fresh copy from prod? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they send you a ticket. Can you please refresh this database with a fresh copy from the database you have in the prod, because we want to test some code before we deploy them here. So all you need to do, okay, since you are taking a daily backup of this prod database, you don't really care about the production database. You might be taking a backup there weekly, but since you are taking a daily backup of this prod database, if they send you that ticket in the morning, they can either be, okay, can you refresh this with a database of this prod as of yesterday? Or can you refresh this with a database of this prod as of 2 days ago? Or can you refresh this with a database of this prod as of now? So when they say as of now, what you need to do is you take a backup of this database, same as you would do on a normal backup. You take that backup, then you copy it over to this server, to the dev server, and you restore it there. Right? This is what is called a database refresh. That is a simple process that you do that.
Hold on.
Okay.
We have a production and we have a dev.
Yes.
You have a sales on production, you have a sales on dev. Now you want to refresh the one on dev. And then you take a backup of the sales on production, knowing fully that you already have the sales database on dev. How do you restore on it? Do you restore on it, or you have to restore a new, a fresh database?
You restore on it because of the same database that you need, right? Or another thing, this is another thing. Your question to answer it, yes, you can restore directly on this, meaning that you overwrite this one. Remember, the reason for you restoring is because this database, even though it's the same database, but it is old, new transactions have come into this sales database now that are not in the prod environment. So if you take a copy of this one, you restore, it's going to overwrite this one and now have a direct copy of this production database as it is. Another thing is you can decide that, okay, I'm going to restore this database on this, since I already have sales here. They can tell that, okay, restore it on the dev environment with a name sales_1. So at this point, I'm just going to come here and I restore this database here and I call it sales_1. depending on what they want it to be. If they want you to restore and override this one, it's the same thing. I can, since I already have the backup, I can literally go and delete what I already have there and restore a new backup. And just restore that backup is going to come up with a database name. Or I can just, same like it is on my instance here. Let me say this is my dev environment, right? I already have a backup. Practical example. This my sales DB is on this dev environment. I have a backup of this sales DB that I have done from my prod environment, right? If I need to restore it on the dev, I just need to right click on that database. I go to restore database, and I override that with the new backup that I got from the dev environment. I mean, from the prod environment. That is all I need to do, right? Hey, Emmanuel, is that clear?
Yes.
What about dropping it, since it has the same information that the new one is has?
That's exactly what I've said, right? So I can either go ahead and I delete this. I can go ahead and since I'm restoring here, I already have that backup. I can delete this database. Then I just go ahead and restore that backup that I have. But why do I need to delete the database? I could just right click on it and restore. It's going to overwrite that database, right? But if they want me to keep this one as it is and then restore that same database with a different name, they would also specify that, right? That, okay, restore a copy of sales DB on dev environment, give it a name, sales DB1 or sales DB2, or they just say restore a copy of that sales or refresh the sales DB on the dev environment with a fresh copy from prod. That way, you can ask clarifying questions. Do you want me to restore it leaving the same name, or do you want me to restore it with a different name? You can ask those kind of clarifying questions. But it is just up to you. So that is just a process. Take a backup here, and restore it over here. I didn't say do a detach here on the prod and attach it on dev. That is not what I said. You know the consequences of that, right? So I said you have to take a backup. Most of the time, since a backup already ran on this database yesterday, I'm just gonna go ahead, like on my environment, I just take the most recent backup. Rather than backing this up during production hours, that will cause some performance issues and stuff like that. I just say, okay, I already have a backup of this database as of yesterday. I just copy that and I come over here and I restore it. That is what I do. Does that make sense? Ada, ask your question now.
My baby is making a lot of noise. Okay, so my question is in regards to, let's say, because I thought when you were saying when you mentioned refreshed, I was more like connecting it to File Explorer when you save a document under your File Explorer or on your Word document, and you want to get access to it real quick. All you need to do is to refresh your File Explorer and then go to your quick access. The quick access gives you the file that you just saved. Then you can either attach it to email or do whatever you want to do with it. So I was anticipating it's the same thing. Like when you either restore back a database to a different instance, all you need to do is just refresh and everything will pop back to whatever changes you made will come back to the most recent update.
Okay, so there's a difference between that. Like, look at this. This is my AZ on-prem. If I right click and I refresh, right? I'll refresh that database. This is not what I mean. This is when
yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's funny, but that's what I thought you were saying.
No, I've never thought of it that way. Now that you have asked that question, I'll make sure next time I explain it really good. You know.
Yeah, I was equally thinking the way she's thinking, because when I saw the question on that project, I told Chika that this one is so easy. We don't need to waste time on it.
Okay. All right. So no, that is normally it's just like what she have said, right? You can right click and you refresh something. Like even if you have a folder like this, and if you have a folder like this and you feel like okay something is missing, you can actually right click to refresh to see maybe something is there. But when it comes to database refresh, this is exactly what we are talking about. Taking a copy of a backup from maybe your production server and restoring it on the dev server. So, excuse me, why do you need to do this? I'll give you one example. It's for developers to be able to play with. Again, we said developers don't have access to these databases here, right? They don't have access to these databases here. So what are some of the things that you need to do after you refresh this database? Let me take for instance, right? On the prod side, developers, they don't have logins on this server, right? But now on the dev side, they have logins to this server. So when I restore this database right here on the dev server, what will happen is these developers, they are not going to have, they're not going to be users of this database, right? Depending on what server level role that they had. If they have sysadmin, then they'll be able to have that. But do we give them sysadmin? Even on prod or dev servers, we don't give developers sysadmin role, right? When we restore it, when we refresh the database, now, because the developer here, let me say one of the developers here was Clovis. There was a login here, Clovis, right? So when I restore this database here, there is no user here called Clovis. So what I need to do now is I need to go to this developer that was Clovis. I right click and I map back that developer to this sales database, right? I map that developer to this sales database. He will not be a user and he will have access to this database. So it's a complete process. And that is why you need to make sure that when you refresh a database, the developer should be able to connect to it and to have access to that database. Any questions on database refresh?
Perfect. Well understood.
All right, perfect.
And can I share my screen real quick? I'm having issues with this attached. I don't know. I'm planning on working on it, like trying to make research myself. But if it's gonna delay us, I don't mind moving forward. And
let me just get, since you have already touched a little bit on that, let me get this maintenance plan issue answered. Then the last thing that we have was constraint. And if we have a few minutes, we can take a look at that. So
you know what? We can go ahead and with whatever you're pre-scheduled for the class today. If you have extra time, we can look into it and see if we can solve it. But if not, I'll personally take it upon myself to do extensive research on it, just so I can be able to learn and know what may be the cost.
Okay, yeah, that is fine. Any way would work. But if we have time, I'll be more than happy to share, help you share your screen so we both can look at it. Others might also learn from it.
Ada.
All right.
I like your English is very, very powerful. You are talking like a professor. Your terms. Your
bye. Talk to you later.
All right. So let's go. So you asked a question about doing a backup using a maintenance plan and doing a regular backup, right? So let me just take this example. Okay, so let me take this example on my server now. Let's assume that we are doing a side-by-side migration, right? Those key points, go ahead and read on them. Read on those things, right? Again, take these key points, read on them, side-by-side migration. There are more advantages and disadvantages of these two types of migrations, right? So now you have to study what is database migration, what is side-by-side migration, what is in-place migration. Really read on that to have that terminology. Speak that SQL language. You only do it when you read it. So let's take, for instance, we have this our default instance, right? We are doing a side-by-side migration, meaning we need to back up. We are using a backup and restore. We need to back up these databases and restore them on the new 2019 server, right? So I can go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to back up these databases one after another. But just look at the headache in doing that, backing up these databases one after another, right? There's a lot of headache in doing that. So it is better for me to set up a maintenance plan, and I can even schedule it, right? I can even schedule it. If I want these backups to be done at a particular time, might be I want the databases to be backed up at 6 a.m. in the morning time or in the morning, and I know that I'm not going to be available at that time to log into my computer. What I would do is I'm going to set up a maintenance plan, and that is why this is actually advantageous, right? You automate it. One of the things that you do as a database administrator is to automate your job. It makes your life much more easier because I can sit here all day. I'll not do anything because I have automated everything. I only work when I get an alert that this has happened. Why? I have automated this. I've set up alerts that they notify me when there is an issue, when I have low disk space, when a backup job fails, when database is growing out of disk space, all of these things, right? That is why it makes our job very easy. Once you have whole of your environment and you have automated everything and it is stable, you don't have any issues. You don't have any issues. So the maintenance plan will help you to accomplish this. Rather than doing individual backups, I can just do a maintenance plan. I go to my management. We have already done this in class. I'm not going to demonstrate that again. I go to management. I create a maintenance plan. Look at this. This is a maintenance plan that we created already in class, right? I can create a maintenance plan that will back up all these databases or just some specific databases for me, rather than doing them one after another. So read on the advantages of a maintenance plan. I don't know how else I can explain that, but it helps to automate the process of backing up multiple databases without you necessarily needing to log into that server at a particular time and back up. Just imagine that a maintenance plan was not there and you need to be doing daily backups every day at 2 a.m. So every night at 2 a.m., you're going to go into your computer, log in, and take a backup? No, right? You just set a maintenance plan. It takes everything and it creates a job for you and it runs that, right? So we're not going to dwell more on that, but that is just a general difference between the two. I don't know if you had something else that you wanted to know, Ada. Yeah, I think she left. All right. So that is it for the maintenance plan part. I don't think Ada is even here when we're explaining this.
She already said bye-bye.
So why did she ask the question?
I'm here.
Okay, I was like, how will you ask a question and you are not there? Did you understand what we said?
Most definitely. However, I wasn't following, but I'm still gonna go through the video after the class.
Okay. Perfect.
But I can like catch whatever, what you're trying to explain, but I didn't get the most basic knowledge aspect of the backup plan. So I'm still a little bit behind on that aspect.
Like I said, I'm gonna, just so you understand that, I don't want you to ask the question, right? A maintenance plan, it just helps to automate tasks, to make your job, your life much more easier. In my environment, I have automated everything. I only work when I get an alert that, okay, there's a backup failure, there is this, there is this, there is that. And that is one of the things as a database administrator, you need to automate all your processes. You don't need to be doing this manual thing. So let's take, for instance, we are doing a side-by-side migration of this database from this instance to another instance, right? We need to back up these databases and we need to do this backup at 2 a.m., right? Do I need to get up at 2 a.m. to start taking individual backups of these databases? No. I can go ahead and I set a maintenance plan and it will definitely take all the backups of these databases for me at 2 a.m., right? So that is the advantage of a maintenance plan. And same with indexes, because if you have 2,000 indexes on your databases, do you want to go and be rebuilding one index after another? No. You can set a maintenance plan to rebuild those or rebuild and reorganize those indexes for you, right? So that is the advantage. It helps to automate that. So what else did you want to know about that?
No, because the last midterm exercise we did, I believe everybody in the group used our maintenance plan. Nobody did or like regular backup plan to back up each database, which I suppose was really tedious. So yeah, So I was more like asking why do we all have to use maintenance backup plan to back up all our database as to using the most basic one, which is a default one that you can just do full backup.
So it depends. Let me just cut it short there. It depends, right? All of these databases here, they might have different times that you need to back them up. You don't need to do one maintenance plan to back up all, right? You could do a maintenance plan to back up just one database. You could do that, right? I could do a maintenance plan here to back up just this one database, not necessarily backing up everything on that instance. So it just depends on what you want to accomplish. If I said, okay, Azure DB should be backed up at 3 o'clock, COVID 2019 DB should be backed up at 6 o'clock, I'm not going to use one maintenance plan. I can create multiple maintenance plans to back up just one database or to back up different databases. So again, you can create a maintenance plan to take just a full backup. You can create another maintenance of this database. Create another maintenance plan to take just a full backup of this database. Create another maintenance plan to take just the log backup. You must not do everything at once. It's not as if you must do everything at once like this.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, all right. So let's talk a little bit about constraints. That was a very interesting one. So what is the difference between null and not null? Who asked that question on constraint? I don't really know how I can explain this again for someone to understand. Silva, can you explain constraints?
The null and not null?
Yeah, just explain the concept of constraints.
How can I even put it in?
Somebody want to try?
Yes. So
Yes.
Constraint is basically a concept to let us use, for instance, you're creating a login for a database, a company database that everybody's going to be using. So, and this database contains lots of data. I'm so sorry about that. Such as people's information, data, and all of that. And you don't want to make it more, it's going to be user friendly. However, you're writing the code, you want, you don't want everybody to have access to the database just like that. So creating a constraint, we make it hard for any random person to access the database. So they have to go through the process, which are put password and all of that. Just put in security measures on how to operate the database. So you're writing code, you're trying to create a table that has rows. You don't want them to access row 1 simply because it is a primary key and it contains IDs, right? You put a constraint on that, stating that in order to access this row, you have to open it with a password. That is a constraint, is a security constraint. And the list is endless. You can apply constraint to anything so long as you're trying to apply security measures and restriction of accessibility to that very table or to that very database that you're creating.
Okay, I think, yeah, that is just the general concept. Coming back to us database administrators, we have seen in this class that when you create a database, right, you just want to put some certain rows that that data somewhat just to control the rate or the type of data that comes into a database, right? You just want to control the type of data that comes into a database. A practical example, I'm just going to put when you create a column, right, and you give a data type to be integer, right? and somebody comes, or you, let me say you give a voucher, and somebody comes and put a data type there that is something else, right? Try to insert data that is something other than the data type of that column. What happens? SQL said that no, this is not what I know. At that point, that is already a constraint. You are controlling what kind of data, what type of data should get into this particular column, right? You are in a situation, you are creating a database. On this database, it's gonna capture people's personal information, right? Okay, there's everybody should have a first name and a last name, but not everybody have a middle name. So if you want to use a null and not null constraint in this situation, you'll be that, okay, the first name field or the first name column, right, should be not null. It means it should not accept null values. When I talk of null, it means like it cannot be left blank, right? That is what you do for the first name and the last name. But for the middle name now, you said allow null. It means if somebody does not have a middle name, okay, you can validate this form without putting any middle name there. And this, you people have experienced this when you're filling some forms online. There are certain fields that you cannot go to the next page if you don't enter some record there. Those are just some of the kind of constraints or the type of constraints that they are out there, right? And these, most of the time, these constraints are being used by developers, database architectures, when they are developing a database. Remember, developing a database is actually a process that it starts with gathering information, understanding the business need, understanding what you want this database to be able to do. Once you have this understanding, you come now, you start looking at the data modeling, all of these things. You look at the physical structure of that database. You start looking at the tables. What are going to be the various tables? What information is going to contain on this table? What information is going to be on this other table? When you gather all that information now as a database architecture, you design those tables, right, to reflect the business needs and the type of information that gets into those tables. When you're doing that designing now, you implement all of those constraints, all of those relationships between the tables, right? It is good for you as a database administrator to understand this constraint. But a database administrator, remember, you are not a database architect, because when we go to SQL, right-click and create a database, that is just a database, right? But the content that has to be in that database, like those tables, those stored procedures, all of those things, they come from the architect that designed those tables, right? The database is just like a container that you just go and you create in SQL. But what is inside that container actually is the value of that database. Those tables, their relationships, the constraints that are on the table. You did not build those. In this class, we have tried to build a 3-table database just for Kiawitech to capture the course, the student, and the instructor, right? And you saw how long it took you all to come out with that. What information is going to be on this table? Which one is going to be a primary key? Which one is going to be a secondary key? Am I going to have a default constraint here? Am I going to have a check constraint? Am I going to have a primary, a secondary key? Am I going to have, what other constraints are there? Right? So this is it's really a process, right? It might, at this point, it might be beyond the scope of this class to start explaining you the architectural design behind creating tables and stuff like that. Our goal here is for you all to understand that this is what actually happens. If this is something you really want to get into, becoming a database architecture or a database architect, you can go ahead and do it. But for now, just understand that if you have a table, I'm going to use this. Let me share my screen. Use this. Just understand that if you have a table with some of the non-null primary key, this is what it means. This is what the primary key means. Non-null means that this column, the date, start date must have a value there, right? You need this as just the little things that we want you all to understand. You are not going to be creating databases. You're not going to be creating those tables. You're not going to be designing databases. They may only tell you create a database on this server. And most of the time, if you work in an environment that have developers and database architects, right? As in DB8, they're just going to give you a script that they have already, a script to create a database, how they want the database to be structured, how they want the file size to be, and all of those good stuff. All you need to do is just execute that script and it will create that database with all those tables, right? Just look at the Adventures Work database. How many tables are there? Look at the Adventures Work database. Where is it? Do I have Adventures Work here? I don't have Adventures Work. But just that you have a database that have thousands of tables, guys, right? That is not being done by the database administrator. You are there to administer the database, have an understanding of how that came about, right? That is your job. Have an understanding how that came about. Know that, okay, this database have indexes. What happens if the indexes are fragmented? How can I check for fragmented indexes? What do I need to do, right? If you want to go a little bit really deeper, you start looking at how that database was actually developed, how the tables were developed, what was a business concept, and all of those good stuff. So these are things that I cannot really sit here and I'm teaching you all of those.
Brian.
Yes.
So I had my question on constraint was the table level constraint. So I know that there are two constraints. You have the column constraint and the table constraint. So I wanted to know like an example of the table level constraint.
Okay, I'm gonna give you this, right? This is straight off. You have a table level constraint. In this type of constraint, it checks if there are any modifications to the table. The same on the table level. What do you study? What do you monitor? What are those constraints you want to put in? If there's a change in this column, if there's a change in this if I change this date, the data type from this date, if I change the data type of this start date column, right, to something else, that is, I can set a constraint here that, okay, do not check if this changes, let me know, right? I can set a constraint here to check the structure of that table. But on a table constraint now, the constraint checks the content of data that comes into that table or into those columns. So it is break down into two. If I set a constraint on the table level, like, okay, if nobody should delete a row on this particular table, right? That is a table constraint. If you delete a row on this particular table, do this. That is a table constraint, because the constraint controls the structure of the table, whereas a column constraint controls the data that comes into those columns. Right, that is just that's the basic definition that I can give you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, general discussion now. Too much talking. Remember, I think this is your last revision class before we get into the real stuff here. So I know the last class on store procedures and functions and stuff like that. I don't know how far you all went, but Doctor, for the most part, Doctor is the one who teaches most of those three topics like that. Partitioning. Have you all done table partitioning?
No.
No.
So you have not done partitioning, but you have done store procedures, right?
Yes.
Have you done functions?
Yeah.
We did that on Monday.
How come nobody requested for a revision on those?
But I don't understand function too well.
Do you understand store procedures?
No, not store procedures, function. I tried to check, to do personal research and with doctors video. So I got confused. I don't even know where to stay. I got confused totally.
Yeah, that is on. We'll probably have a revision class on those, but it's not gonna be today. I know the last 3 topics or the last 4 topics that you all had, we'll definitely have a revision class on those. Any other issues you think we can help you all get better in this teaching style? What else do you think we can do to get you all better? We want to make sure that we are putting in all the effort that we can, giving you the material the way you all want it. to understand.
I think the course material, maybe for some reasons, we keep jumping from, we pick a little chapter in this and then jump to the other one, probably because we have a project that we have to do. I don't know the reason why we're doing that, but sometimes, like now you're asking about the stock procedure, the functions, the triggers, that's a chapter. And there are some that we did it, or we actually did some few parts, we didn't complete it. You came in because you are handling another one. And then we tend to forget that we have to go back. Not until when he asks that, oh, have I taught you guys this? Or like, oh, then we have to go back. I think if we can just be, if for any reason those lessons have to be altered, then it should also be structured in the lesson part, so that once we know we're done with this, everybody knows that, okay, everything under here is done. But in some places, we covered maybe 9/10 of it, and then there's only one left that wasn't done because of a reason.